All right, well, it's 6:05, we can start, it's us
Okay, cool.
right here. So today we wanted to talk about education, and we were talking earlier about the public school education.
Yeah,
And
I've got a lot of experience.
you've
with
got
that.
a lot of experience with that. You're a teacher,
I
right?
was a teacher at Putnam for a dozen
Okay.
years, 12
Yeah,
years, and now
yeah.
I teach at Chicopee Comp.
Okay, yeah.
Similar population. So
Mhm.
I'm a shop teacher. I teach a weird shop. It's called Design and Visual Communication. So I teach a wide range of skill sets: digital photography, digital cinema
Mm.
production, film editing,
Oh,
animation, illustration, publication design, graphic design. So yeah, anything in the creative industry, we try to cover it all. Yeah, we get all the creative kids, which is fun.
Right.
Which is good. Yeah, they're
Mhm.
hardworking, creative kids.
Steve, what's your last name again?
Hooper.
Hooper,
H.
that's right. H-O-O-P-R.
And we just had one of our sophomores, now a junior, over the summer. He had won a gold medal at a state competition in graphic design
Wow,
and got to go to a national competition competing against kids from all across the country and got a gold medal down there.
wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
great.
So
Makes you feel good.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what keeps us, going in every day. It's
Mhm,
those stories.
mhm. Yeah, so that's good.
So education,
Yeah.
what would be it?
So let's think about what the issues are. Right, so what are the issues? Because that's what we want to do. We want to think about what the problems are and then how we can solve them.
Yeah,
And since you're in the school
Well,
system,
yeah. I mean, also I have to lay it out there. I'm a pretty steadfast union member too, so I
Mhm.
do have a perspective on this. It's not unbiased. So I
Mhm.
just want to make that
Absolutely.
clear. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I think just a lot of the kids that I taught in Springfield were underserved in a lot of areas. I mean, everything in areas that I hold dear, like nutrition. I guess they've improved that with homegrown. They've been trying to make
Well,
improvements, but
they said they have, but the kids are still not eating the food.
Yeah.
Because they said it's not good or whatever.
yeah,
I don't know. And you're talking about, probably, there's free lunch for everybody,
yes,
right?
yeah,
So now, so that might have been addressed, that issue.
Right.
And I think free breakfast.
Now it's free breakfast. Yeah. And so they've been doing that. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's just the back, and of course, I can't speak to Springfield today, but back when I was teaching, kids would like smuggle a burrito, for instance, out of the lunchroom and come and show it to me, and it had mold on it.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
like, this is the kind of stuff
yeah.
that,
And in a city has underserved children.
yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that we're gonna give them.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? And it's disrespectful,
So
to say the least.
the
Let me get a pen, I can get a
Yeah.
pen. Mine's not working.
if I can name names, the company was Sodexo. I'm not sure if they still do the food
I
service in
I
Springfield.
know zero about education because my baby is 38.
Yeah. So you are definitely an empty nester.
I'm an atheist.
Yeah. So issues is probably still nutrition, maybe.
And that affects everything, it affects the good work that you do in behavioral health. It
Mhm.
affects the culture in the classroom and by extension, the culture in the school.
Yeah, right.
If you have hungry kids, you get kids that are gonna
They
act
can't
out.
learn.
They can't
They
learn.
can't learn. They're
Yes.
irritated. They get hangry.
Right,
You
right.
know, so
But
yeah.
a Pop-Tart isn't a solution either.
No, it isn't.
Yeah,
So nutrition, so we were talking about earlier, even though we don't have kids in the school system, my kids are grown as well. It affects our property values, right?
oh,
When
yeah,
people don't want to move to a city where the school system is not good.
right,
So our houses are not going to be, sold to families,
Right.
right? Because our school system, so that's something I think economically, we need to look at because we have to make sure that, we are drawing some people that want to move here, want to live here, even the
Yeah.
kids that graduate from our schools,
yeah.
from the colleges.
When it comes to school staffing, I mean, across the board, every job I've ever had, workers have always outperformed managers. And I think that's clear in the school system.
Mhm.
When I think last year I taught at Putnam, the city was paying, it was outrageous. It was like $700,000 a year just on administrative salary. And, having better teachers and
Mhm.
less of a disparity in pay.
Mhm.
But then, they're gonna argue, how do you recruit administrators? Well, you know, a good school is about good teachers and good students.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think you hire administrators from within, right?
Yeah,
A good
that's another-
teacher
Yeah,
has gone through the ranks and, you know, that
Yeah.
same teacher can be the principal, you know, of
Yeah.
the school, and because they know the culture, they know. And we can, you know, pay them a commensurate pay, not, you know, not obscene amount of money.
yeah.
Although I feel like teachers should get paid, well, athletes get paid.
Yeah.
And athletes get paid, well, teachers get paid,
Well, me-
But
Yeah, for
that's-
me, are-
Yes.
yeah.
well, as the UAW goes, hopefully everybody else will go. Yeah, but one of the things I've always wondered, and I'm not sure I ever got a clear answer from Tim Collins when he was the president of the SEA, is there any legal firewall that prevents teachers having a say in the hiring of administrators?
Hmm,
You know, shouldn't there be, you know, maybe union reps in the building sitting at these tables when they're negotiating administrative positions? So that way you can at least hope that an administrator starts with some level of teacher support
right,
instead of just being airdropped.
right.
I
That's a
saw,
great.
I saw an administrator at Putnam take a really good school from Kevin McCaskill and turn it into it was a nightmare.
Mhm.
And yeah, we don't need that. We need
So I think
teachers
that's a
involved in
good
hiring.
solution.
Yeah,
That's a
but
great solution.
I don't know if there's any legal, there might
Well,
be something. A
I don't
lawyer-
know.
A lawyer bill.
Yeah, and I wish, yeah, if our lawyer was here,
Yeah,
but I think it makes sense, you know, the MTA, I don't know what the MTA thinks about that.
right.
And then I think also the classroom sizes, of course.
Yep.
I don't know how big they are nowadays, but you know, having over 20 kids in one classroom, that's a lot, or just one teacher. So if they're gonna have that size, they should have, you know, the paras in there
or 8.
constantly, not just, you know, for 15 minutes here and then they go somewhere else. They should
Yeah.
have,
If I can even extend, you know, if you're gonna empower teachers, have them also in the planning of these buildings.
mm,
When Putnam got a new building, I walked into that place the first time, and the first thing that struck me is that it felt like a control environment. I have older brothers that have been in lockups, so I've been in prisons to visit, and that's exactly what it reminded me. It just looked like a really fancy control environment. And then the second thing was the inappropriate amount of empty space. Have you been in the new
and
Putnam?
Putnam,
So
yeah.
when you walk into that
It looks like a
entrance-
mall.
It does, but that could be classrooms. That could be a
Right.
whole nother floor
Mhm.
with 5 or 6 more classrooms.
And they cut down the number of students that can go there now
Yeah,
because of that, probably.
yeah, so I mean, that, as we move forward, when it comes to any of these renovations or any planning on the physical plan of a building, if teachers can be involved in at least space management, not
Right.
anything structural or any
Mhm.
services, but space management, I think could be good.
Right. Teachers underpaid, overworked.
Yeah, Chicopee just ran through sort of a stopgap pay raise. Try to stop the hemorrhaging of teachers. I'm not sure how Springfield you might know, was there a lot of teachers leaving the system in the summer?
I think so. Yeah, I know actually a few of my friends were trying to leave the
Yeah,
system.
Chicopee, we lost
And
a
it's
lot of
because,
teachers.
yeah, and when people leave jobs, it's not because of the jobs, it's because of the management.
It's probably not teaching. People
Mhm.
don't get into teaching because they hate kids.
Right, exactly.
I think East Long Meadow lost all that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
the job
Well,
getting-
and I think the climate after COVID, I have a friend now that is a third grade teacher. So her students right now went to kindergarten on Zoom. And to first grade on Zoom, so they didn't develop those social skills they needed, and now they're acting out, of course.
Yeah.
What did we think was gonna
Yeah.
happen?
And they're in high school. I get it.
You
Yeah.
know, so, and I don't think that the educational system prepared for that. You know,
No.
for the lack of socialization.
And also a lot of folks don't realize, how teachers during that time
Mhm.
may have been prevented from giving kids the necessary attention, obviously no face-to-face, but to prepare lessons basically on the fly,
Mhm.
because we were given no notice that we were out of work, basically, because you were at home, but it's not your space, you're kind of out of work.
Mhm. And then like what were you supposed to do during that time?
Yeah,
you know?
and how do you communicate? And there's a lot of veteran teachers that didn't have a grasp on the technology, like
Mhm.
Zoom was a very complex thing
right,
for some folks.
right.
And it didn't seem like there was a lot of acknowledgement for what the teachers had to go
Mhm,
through
mhm,
to make that thing
Right,
happen at
Yeah.
in whatever level of success it's measured.
right.
So,
And I think the parents didn't get a lot of support either, right? Because
No.
imagine all of a sudden you were a teacher to maybe 3 different grades in one house,
Yeah.
right? If you had children in different
of
grades.
course.
And you were the one that was gonna be in front of the computer with that child.
Yeah.
The teacher, of course, on the other side, but
And also
parents were not prepared.
I thought the district maybe hadn't consulted the MTA or any local, when it came to like, at least in Chicopee, they were mandating that we had to have the kids, they had to have their video on.
Mm,
And I don't know about you guys, but I mean, the house that I grew up in, I was not proud of that. I wouldn't have had that on a video. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have wanted that in the
Right.
background.
right,
And I thought that was I mean, I understand the idea behind it, but it just didn't feel like it was well thought out.
right.
And that could have, maybe been, helped by having more parents involved in that decision making,
Mhm,
you know?
mhm.
Because maybe some parents, maybe the house is fine, they just want privacy, you know, that's.
Unfortunately, a lot of parents aren't involved.
mhm.
Yeah, I mean, for a variety of reasons too. I mean, you got parents that, my brother was one, he slept all day and because he worked
Mhm,
all night,
mhm.
so,
Mhm.
yeah, it's hard.
Right,
Yeah, the communication with parents was bad.
it was, and the support for the parents.
Yeah.
And even now, support for parents. And then, of course, the root causes of everything. Poverty, oppression. It's expensive to be poor, I always say, right?
Yeah, well, they cry that, but yet, they'll give tax breaks for a new business to move into town.
But then won't give us a tax break on our property taxes.
Nope, nope, not unless you're opening a dealership or a casino.
Where's that casino? money?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I wanna know, where that casino money
still
is.
locked up, right?
And yeah, it hasn't been released yet, I don't understand why, but,
And then who manages it once it's released?
probably the mayor. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we need a people's budget.
Yes,
We need, by ward, have all the budgetary items, use the last budget. Have it broke down, anybody who's willing to get involved in the process of seeing where money is allocated, then come up with an alternative budget that's democratic, done by a consensus.
yeah,
I think that would be an interesting process.
participatory budgeting,
Yes,
yeah.
but back to schools, student resources, I'm not sure how, like, textbooks and stuff have improved. I know there's a lot more stuff online now, so textbooks aren't a priority,
Mhm.
but I think that there's still a lot of kids that can learn from using books. I mean, there's a
Mhm.
lot of kids that prefer to
Yeah,
manipulate.
paper.
A lot of them have no laptops.
They should have everybody has a Chromebook.
Everybody should have a Chromebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those Chromebooks aren't really so great. They're not really a computer, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And depending on the firewalls,
Right,
when you open a book, you can't pop open a video and watch it and then
Mhm.
pull up open a game and play it over here.
Right.
Everything is with a
There
computer.
must be frontal controls and everything. I mean,
Yeah, I'm sure the school systems
I'm
apply
sure
a
they
firewall.
try.
But
kids are smarter.
They're proxies.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's ways of getting proxies. I watched a kid today that was watching a movie that I didn't think was out of the box office yet. So that's my first thing, and tomorrow morning is I gotta go in and find out where the source of that movie came from.
Mhm. I tell you, they find things.
Oh, yeah.
They find things.
But
And
they
I
never
think
threw over history.
in our schools, when I was in school, it was a long time ago. But we had like the photography club, the newspaper club, the tennis club. I don't know that we have those anymore here, do we?
And I can tell you why. It's just burnout.
Mm,
Good teachers, when we
Mhm.
leave, you leave like you just left a pint of blood on the floor.
mm,
And to think about staying after, I mean, there are driven folks that do it. I mean, there are coaches who are dedicated to a certain sport. But I don't know if there's a way of making it more incentivized.
Well, I think paying the teachers enough, giving them the
Yeah.
support that they need.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
coaches get paid significantly more than people who stay after for clubs. If clubs,
Really?
like I ran an art club at Putnam, I didn't get it paid at all. I was just,
Yeah, no, that's not right, right? We
well, I
should
mean,
pay
I
them.
was gonna do it anyway.
But we should
Yeah.
compensate you.
Yeah.
You know, for
Yeah.
doing that, because
Right,
that's work.
right. I think
know?
Chicopee does, but it's like, it's like, I'm gonna say a couple $100 a
My
year.
brother's a golf coach, but it's
Oh, yeah.
in Florida.
Oh, is that right?
Mhm.
Yeah, wow. You can do that all year round there too. That's good.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that making, because it's gonna have to be run by teachers.
Right,
Administrators don't do clubs, which I don't see why they couldn't.
right, yeah, I don't see why they.
Like, I don't see why administrators can't do classroom coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Why does a
Absolutely.
teacher have to give up their planning time? Why can't an administrator have all their hours to cover a class that they want to know?
What do you call them, subs?
Yeah, when they call in subs, it costs money, but sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, if the budget stops, there's no more subs. Like we had to, I think we went a couple years in Chicopee without any building subs. And it was tough because you're making teachers have to cover content that they're not trained in. And it's just another period of dealing with
Just give
classroom.
or to give them study.
Yeah. But you're still
Watch a
managing,
movie, right?
Yeah,
but
But you're managing a class.
managing kids,
Yeah.
which is still, it's always
Yeah.
exciting. But yeah, anything to lighten the load on teachers will make the classroom and school cultures better. and
Right.
Make the kids happier and learn easier.
Yeah,
But I agree with you, more activities for kids, more a diverse array of activities for kids.
And keep them on track.
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Get rid of the MCAS. The MCAS is an issue, as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, I couldn't get it through, when I was living in Hamden, I was trying to get through the town council, I guess what they call it, to put out the word about MCAS, that parents can opt out of it.
Mm-hmm,
You can't opt out of the 10th grade one, but they started in the 3rd grade.
mm-hmm.
You can opt out 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Mm.
But a lot of parents don't know that. And if they, I mean, probably most wouldn't do it, but that should also be communicated to parents, is that MCAS is not mandated. You can write a letter to your school administrator and say, hey, I understand MCAS is going on for this, that, and the other day.
Mhm.
I am asking you, respectfully asking you, to find some other learning activity for my son or daughter or whatever.
I think that's a good idea. Get the word out on that you can opt out of
I
MCAS.
think that's true. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
no lawyer, but I think
It
it's,
is
yeah,
true.
because I only think the only one that's mandatory is 10th grade.
Right, and then
But
the,
then schools will always fight because I'm sure there's some kind of incentive to
well,
keep this testing thing
that ticks
started.
me off, because you know how much it costs,
money to
that
the school.
test?
Oh, it's probably,
Pearson is buku rich
If-
because of us buying MCAS
That would
and
be
then
something.
scoring it.
I'd like to see the city do accounting for Springfield Public Schools. How much does it take? How much does it cost to have the test shipped? Maybe the
Mhm.
state pays for that, I'm not sure. But the city has to pay teachers to sit in hallways, teachers to proctor this thing,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
The administrators to work the time to get the test together and
Mhm,
administer it. So I'm sure if you added all that up and then just the per print, or now it's online,
well, you
but
have to buy
the
it
cost of,
from Pearson.
yeah, you have to buy that
That's
test,
not cheap,
right,
and then we have to send it to them to score it
right,
and pay for that.
yeah.
So it's not,
And you're paying staff
right, yeah.
to sit in a hallway.
And then the stress that the kids are going through. I remember
Yeah.
my grandson in, I wanna say 3rd or 4th grade, he was stressing and he couldn't sleep the night before because he
Yeah.
had to take the MCAS the next day.
Yeah, the little kid. He's
Little
stressing.
kid,
Well,
why?
and there's these tests starting in 3rd grade can actually be used against a
Mhm.
student. I'll give you an example. My daughter this year, I think she said she's read like 40 some books.
Mm,
My daughter loves reading
mhm,
and she's really pretty creative writer. When she was going from middle school to high school, in the 8th grade, she doesn't test well. She's very nervous. She has a lot of
Mhm,
test anxiety. So she cratered on the MCAS.
mm,
And even though her middle school English teacher was communicating to the high school that she needs to be in an accelerated English,
mhm.
because she's an avid reader and she's good at writing, they looked at the MCAS scores and they almost didn't do that.
Wow,
So we had to go to bat and go, come on,
right,
I mean, really?
right.
But I think sometimes those tests, like I said, can be used
Mhm.
hinder a kid's
Mhm.
opportunity. I mean,
Right,
if
and a lot of kids have test anxiety.
big
My
time.
daughter had test anxiety.
Yeah,
So they could be as smart as a whip, but they don't test well, and then they're gonna be labeled,
yeah.
you know, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of testing also, I'm not sure if Springfield does it, but midterms and finals,
Mm,
I don't, at
I
least,
don't think they do midterms and finals,
Okay,
they just
'cause
do
no idea.
MCAS.
okay, because
Yeah.
the content area that I teach, I just find it's so bad.
Yeah,
Because everything that I teach is unique. So I mean, to have a kid do an accumulative test, I guess maybe if it was a history class,
right.
I don't know, but
Or
yeah,
math or something.
that might be something to, if they don't do midterms and finals, that's great.
So midterm, I'll look and
Yeah.
see, I don't think they do.
Because yeah, that doesn't really do anything. Especially if you're giving kids quizzes, which every teacher does, you're quizzing kids
Right.
constantly.
Right, because that's one thing that someone said to me before, and I said, we should get rid of the MCAS, but then how are they gonna how are you gonna test? The way we've been testing for the last, what,
Yeah,
100 years, right?
yeah. And also every parent has a portal to their kids' classes where they can look and see all the quizzes and all the
Mhm.
tests. I mean, they're laid out right there.
Right,
Yeah, but no, I'm with you. I just,
yeah.
and I'd like to see the city fight for more teacher-driven content in the classroom.
Mm,
I had a teacher that, a dear friend of mine at Putnam, that spoke fluent Italian. And her side hustle was, as an editor, she was translating Italian novels into screenplays.
wow.
So bilingual and a screenwriter.
Mhm,
Right.
mhm.
And when she was brought into Putnam, they knew she had that resume. They saddled her with this Read 180 program, which is a scripted day one, do this, day two, do this,
Wow.
day three.
So no autonomy.
She left. She was there for a couple of years. She's like, they're not gonna let me teach the content area that I'm best at. Why
Right.
can't you teach a kid how to read and write by having them write screenplays?
Mm-hmm.
And then they might perform them.
That would be
Yeah, they might.
excellent. They would love it too. It would entertain the child and they
Well, it's,
get them motivated.
isn't it called English language arts?
Mm-hmm. You would think they would focus on that.
So giving teachers, not just in English, but in every content area, the flexibility to
Mm-hmm.
create their own content instead of these lessons in a can that are
Right,
given to teachers.
right, because all kids don't learn the same.
Nope. That might be easier in sort of the humanities, obviously, science and math.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably,
Yeah, you have to follow that script.
you can't be creative,
All right.
but certainly in the humanities, you can do it.
Oh, one thing that Mr. Howard wants us to make sure we know is that, of course, free community college in the state.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
everyone, well, you can't have a degree. So you can't have like a bachelor's or a master's, but
right,
you could go to community college
Oh,
for
you
free.
can't have a degree?
No,
yeah.
I
was
know,
actually thinking of
but you
one
know
a
what,
sticker, however you may.
but you can go there for free anyways, you're over 60,
If
right?
you're a citizen,
Yeah.
you get free tuition.
Yeah.
Stick is amazing.
I started my first 2 years there.
They're like the Ivy League of community colleges.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I went there, I got a
Yeah.
degree from there in computer information systems,
Good for you.
but it's obsolete right now, because it was 1987.
Yeah, my son just got his associates in accounting there.
Mhm.
And it was, I think when he started, it was ranked number 4 in the country. as far as community
It's a great
college.
college.
Yeah. And the community colleges, maybe that's something that could be communicated to the kids too, is as the community colleges are free, a lot of the community colleges in the Commonwealth are pipelining into the public school
Yes,
colleges too.
yeah, because they could do a dual track.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
we just had a presentation at Chicopee Comp from Massachusetts College of Arts is the last public art school left, and
Mhm.
it's in the state of Massachusetts, and tuition it's affordable because it's a public school,
Mhm.
and they have articulation agreements with community colleges, so
Mm,
you can get 2 years of community college, work on a portfolio, and then possibly transfer to an art school.
Right,
But that's the whole state school system in
Right,
Massachusetts. I think, has some level of articulation with the community colleges.
yeah, absolutely. And I feel like we need to use our community colleges and all the other colleges to collaborate more with the schools, the public schools. Kids trying to find work or trying to start a trade or a business or something. I
Well,
think that would be helpful.
And we do, in my shop, we have a dual enrollment with Elms, and
Mm,
they have
oh, that's nice.
their graphic design
Mhm.
professor comes in once a week and does projects.
What almost has graphic design?
Yep, they have graphic design, and he comes in on Fridays and works for like 3 periods with our juniors
Ooh.
on projects. So it's every
Nice.
Friday, it's Elms projects, and they
Wow.
get college credit. It's
Oh,
instead of a
that's good.
semester, it's a whole year.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
they'll get 3 credits by
Right.
completing this course, and it's college level course, and they get access to all the resources there, because they're essentially enrolled.
Right,
And it's
well,
free of
that's
charge.
great.
So if we could get, like, speaking specifically about Putnam,
Mhm,
imagine if we could get, program advisory committee members from the shops
mm,
to commit to doing workshops, giving the kids a chance to interact with somebody who might be a possible employer.
mhm,
Do you know what I mean? And
Right.
that would be, something to get kids head on straight. At least when we used to have guests come into my shop that were local graphic designers and publishers, the kids really they pay attention, they learn a lot,
mhm.
and they're much more intrigued
Yeah,
by
cause
seeing
that's like real life to
somebody
them.
who's doing it.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah. But yeah, dual enrollment, if those are opportunities. And I've never understood how come in a school system that we have that's so vertically structured, everything seems to go one way, having dual enrollment come back to the high schools.
Mhm,
But I would like to see, maybe colleges can come up, or maybe, master's students or PhD students come up with things that can come down to the high school and to like middle school and grade school,
mhm. Yeah,
and start having that dialogue about the future as early as elementary school.
right. Between colleges.
Financial literacy would be another thing
Mhm,
that should be a core.
yeah, absolutely.
Here, I feel like I'm filibustering this whole.
I got zero input.
Okay. Yeah, I think like financial literacy,
Civics.
civics is so critical. And that'd be something that city government can do.
Mhm.
City
Should
government
be
can
able
get
to do
into the
that.
schools and have those conversations
Mhm.
about what it means to vote, what it means to be a citizen in a
And why?
democracy,
Yeah.
and what does it mean to dissent, and how do you dissent?
Mhm. Got a lot of good ideas.
Yeah, here's one for you, and
Mhm.
I'm not sure if this is gonna be a lead balloon. How about kids that are graduating school having some information on how to deal with police?
Mm,
Police interaction
Mhm.
training, how to make sure that you get through that interaction safely. How to manage your emotions, how to, manage yourself in the situation to get out of that,
mhm.
and also preserving your rights at the same time.
At the same time,
Yeah.
that's hard.
It is, it takes,
I feel like, yeah,
yeah,
kids, and then, and I think back, and this is me as a social worker, right? I think back, well, why don't we teach the police officers how to deal with our kids?
well, you're right,
Yes.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
These are children, these are babies,
I
you
know.
know,
Wires don't-
13, 14, 15.
Yeah,
They're kids.
but I told my sons, I told my daughter too, but I don't consider her as much at risk, but I told my kids, I said, sometimes in those situations, you're gonna have to be the adult.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta maintain your composure. You can't lose your mind.
It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
That's, yeah. I feel like, if we had, well, I know right now our police department is going through a transition. And I think it's going to be better for it, right? Because we are having some oversight and hopefully, more people will want to join our police department. And what I was thinking, and I thought you were gonna say, is that have a pipeline from high school graduates to city jobs.
Oh, there you go.
To police departments, to the fire department, to the city hall, right? We have a lot of jobs openings in DPW,
Right.
all the departments that are understaffed. They
Right.
could start off with high school graduates into those entry level jobs. They don't have to pay them that much,
Yeah.
right? Because they're starting off, but it could be a career for them.
Yep.
Kids that don't want to go to college,
Yeah.
College isn't for everybody.
no, it isn't. So I'm gonna say pipeline to
Yeah, city employment would be
city
a
employment.
good idea. And that might be a way of getting some of this agencies in the city to visit the schools and start those conversations.
Right, yeah. Yeah, city hall, police department,
Yeah, for sure. DPW.
yeah.
A lot of good work there.
Electricians, plumbers.
Yeah,
Mhm,
absolutely.
mhm.
City.
Yeah,
The forestry,
yeah.
you know,
yeah,
a lot of and there's a lot of vacancies,
yeah.
a lot of vacancies.
Also, even having some of the local unions,
Mm-hmm,
get them in, and electricians, carpenters, they could be going into middle schools and having these conversations about what it means to have organized labor, what is collective bargaining,
Right,
kids would
yeah.
understand that.
mm-hmm.
Oh, you don't think so? Democracy? Yeah, I think they would understand.
Democracy.
Yeah, I think they would understand collective bargaining. It's not,
Mhm. We could teach them.
yeah,
They're sponges. They want to learn,
and anything that's controversial.
They love
If
that.
you can, if you
Because
can
they'll
make it,
take the other
yeah,
side.
if you can make it controversial, they'll perk up.
They like to argue.
They like to-
Yeah, good. I think this is good. I think we don't have to sit here. I have a bunch of stuff that I think we could present.
I think it's a lot, yeah.
And I think we can work on it and present these solutions. We have more solutions than problems. That's good,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So, all right, well, I think our next meeting in October. It's going to be, I believe, on the 17th.
it'll be 17.
Now, what do you guys want to have the topic be on that day? Because we've talked about education. We've talked about public safety. Anything else that you guys think?
Food insecurity?
Food insecurity, yes, food insecurity.
And,
You know that, Talmadge School
Mhm.
has the garden?
Mm,
Thomas School. has a
Talmadge.
garden.
Talmadge.
Talmadge School
Talmadge Middle School.
has a garden, has a
out-
garden plate. Do they?
They have a garden and, I was at a meeting there
Nice.
last week and they had a bunch of produce on the table to
Mm.
take.
nice,
Which was nice.
nice, that's
Yeah.
very nice. There's a garden, they used to do one next to Kennedy, but I don't think it's there anymore.
I have a proposal I wanna present,
Mhm.
and, I'm not sure. I mean, it must be okay to have other people that haven't been part of this,
Yeah.
to come together, because I got, connections at Echoes, I got connection at Homegrown, I have a
So
connection.
do you want to
gardening
have
in the
them come
community.
in?
I'm gonna share the proposal with them and maybe ask them,
Okay, why don't you
To
do that and let me know,
and I'll CC you on the
Yeah.
emails.
that'll be
Okay,
perfect.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then that way we could just put that on the agenda and let people know that
Yep.
we'll be coming.
So I will get, I still have to do a little bit of editing on the proposal, but I think it'll be worth waiting, and it gives us plenty of time before the next meeting. So, yeah, awesome.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, Mr. Howard.